What's going on, everyone? Today is April 13th of 2023, and welcome to this take 2 of Superstream number 50. Quick apologies to anybody who jumped in on the last live stream, which cut out on me. I know it's been a few years since I had an issue like that, so hopefully the last time. But yeah, let's give this another crack. In today's video, we're going to be talking about several news stories by the numbers, as always. But today's going to be a little bit of a special stream, as this is Superstream number 50. Now, in the language of Gematria, which I teach on this channel, the word circle has an alphabetic ordinal value of 50. And in this video, I'm going to talk about how certain news stories are scripted entirely around the mathematics and numerology of the circle. For those of you watching the stream archived, I'm going to be adding chapters to this video after I'm done streaming. So you should find these stories segmented out. We might talk about a couple other things as we go as well. Depends how much time I take. But first of all, let's get started with this bizarre news story we got from March 23rd. And some of these stories will be a few weeks old, but again, we're going to be focusing on the geometry of the language and then how the news essentially pays tribute to this special secret code through the media. As I commonly say, quoted phrases that we see in the headlines of news stories are often coded by the numbers. And notice there's a very strange one here. They put this phrase, flashed her middle finger in the air to demonstrate what she thinks of, before cutting the quote off. Well, in the language of Gematria, in using the reverse reduction method, notice how this phrase has a Gematria value of 314. And as most people know, the mathematics of the circle are resolved with the irrational number pi, which begins with the digits 3.14. Now, for anyone who may be new to this channel, we focus on the language of Gematria, which is the ancient occulted mystical practice of observing the numbers that lie underneath the language. Simple, English, and Gematria, three words that all sum to the same number, 74, in Gematria. And of course, we branch off into the base 4 from this method, where the alphabetic order can either be reversed so that Z is 1 and A is 26, or reduced so that every double-digit number becomes a single digit prior to adding it to the equation. So we see this 314 quoted in the headline here. And this news story is entirely a tribute to this coded mathematics of the circle. And let's just get right into this, as I have some slides that I'd like to share to explain the significance of the number 50. So as we saw earlier, in the standard alphabetic order, the word circle equals 50. And what I think is interesting is when you break these digits down, 50, the gematria of those digits essentially match pi in reduction, 16 and 11. Now understand, when you see a 0 in these numbers, particularly the 3 and 4 digit numbers, you can generally ignore those. So 106 and 110 is essentially a match with 16 and 11. There's two other large number ciphers that I teach quite regularly on this channel. The most significant one, as I claim, is called Latin, or Agrippa's key. And in this method, notice how the letter O, which is the circle in the alphabet, happens to be worth 50. Another cipher I teach is Satanic Gematria, which is built around the number 666. We're going to talk about that number next. In this method, notice how the number O also lands on 50, as this cipher begins with A on 36. This number is integral to the United States of America. Notice how America has matching 50 gematria with circle. And it's been well over 60 years since America added its 50th state. And there's been several territories added since then, but no more states. And I wouldn't expect that for a long time either, because America has this 50 value. In reduction, circle and America both sum to 32. And notice Independence Day back in 1776. When you add the digits of Independence Day, 7 plus 4 plus 1, 7, 7, and 6, you get a sum of 32. But the year 1776 is strongly connected to pi in another way. If you take the first three digits of pi, 314, and then transpose these digits into every possible combination with those same three digits, add them all together, you get a sum of 1776. In reduction gematria, 1776 matches 3.14, values of 98 and 82. The year 1776 is also 888 plus 888. And in this Latin method, the phrase 3.14 has gematria of 888. So this exhibits how the United States of America was founded using this numerology of the circle. In reverse gematria, the number 50, when spelled out, sums to 69, and in turn, the number 69 sums to 50. Now, the first number in reduction that sums to 69 is 88. And of course, 88 is a number made up of 4 circles. Once again, 3.14 equals 888. But with this 69 value of 50, again, 50 the first number to sum to 69 in the base ciphers. In Latin gematria, the word pi equals 69, and pi resolves the mathematics of circles. The word circles also equals 69. So does the word eclipse. And a solar eclipse is an intersection of the two largest circles in the sky. Furthermore, the 69th day of the year is March 10th. And when you spell out March 10th, it has matching 11 and 16 gematria with pi. Just like 50 we saw earlier. We'll see this again numerous times. But back to the number 50. America and circle both summing to 50. It's always important in numerology to pay attention to prime numbers. Prime numbers only divisible by 1 and itself. The 50th prime number is 229. This brings us to the book of Revelation, the final book in the New Testament of the Bible. Here we're told that 636 is the number of the beast. And this verse, Revelation 13:18, is the 229th verse of the book. And we'll talk about how 666 is incredibly connected to the circle. First of all, notice the digits used in Revelation 13:18. 13 is the 6th prime number. 18 is 6 plus 6 plus 6. And if you count from 13 to 18, that's even 6 different numbers. There's several phrases in this Bible verse. Here is wisdom, number of the beast, number of a man, and his number is. Notice how all 4 of those phrases have reduction gematria of 66. Revelation is the 66th and final book of the King James Bible. When you write the number 666 out in Latin gematria, it sums to 2083. 2083 is the 314th prime number. Again, 3.14, the first 3 digits of pi. In gematria, 2083 has matching values 11 and 16 with pi. Notice how the moon also has this 283 Latin value. 666 is essentially the number of the moon. Probably talk about more about that as I go. The number 2083 in Latin gematria has a value of 2,270. And this is a very significant number to the circle as well. Every circle is made up of 360 degrees. And when you write out 360, it sums to 227 in the alphabetic order. Now, why is 227 significant to the circle? Well, if you take 22 divided by 7 on a calculator, you get 3.14, the first 3 digits of pi. On your Windows keyboard, Alt plus 227 will give you the pi symbol. And in the alphabetic order, when you write out 22 divided by 7, it sums to 314 in the alphabetic order. Also, the number 227, when you write it out, also has matching reduction gematria with pi, 101 and 106. Again, like 11 and 16. When you write out 2083, once again, the 314th prime number, you also get an English standard gematria value of 2775. And this is important because if you take 666 hours on the clock, you find that this translates to exactly 27.75 days. And there's more details on how the number 666 is connected to the circle. Moon magic square has gematria of 666. When you add the diameter of the moon in Roman numerals to the moon, you get 666. Sun moon equals 666. Luna moon, 666 in Sumerian. The sun's magic square sums to 666. And we're also going to talk about NASA, whose full name, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, equals 666. So let's talk about how these numbers are all coded into this story about Kyrsten Sinema giving the middle finger to former Biden aide Ron Klain. The name Sinema sums to 61 in the alphabetic order. Now, Kyrsten Sinema is actually a pretty significant member of the United States Senate. Famous musician Frank Zappa once said that politics is the entertainment division of the military-industrial complex, and this has never been more evident than it is in today's day and age. And it just so happens that the U.S. Senate is almost always split 50-50, or very close to it. This keeps the news intriguing. This makes people feel like they have a real voice when they vote every 4 years. Now, Kyrsten Sinema was voted in as a Democrat, but is now an independent. So she's considered a swing vote in the Senate, which, if you think about it, technically gives her more power than even the president, as the U.S. Senate as a whole has more impact on the laws passed in this country than the president himself. So here we have a woman whose last name is Sinema, the swing vote in the Senate. And of course, cinema is related to theater, plays, fiction playing out on television. It's no different here in the U.S. Senate. So the name Sinema has an alphabetic order value of 61. And in this story, it's said that she flipped off Ron Klain. Well, Ron Klain happens to be a 61-year-old man who was born in the year 61. The 61st prime number is 283. Think about how this connects to 2083 in numerology. These are essentially identical. This news story from March 23rd is the date that leaves 283 days on the Gregorian calendar. So the number 61 coded in connection with the date. Now, what's also interesting about this date, March 23rd, not only do you get 283, this number we just talked a lot about, but this is also the 82nd day of the year. And the first number that have gematria of 666 in any cipher of significant relevance is 82. Using reverse Sumerian, 82 sums to 666. We are currently in a period between the two great American total solar eclipses here in the United States. One in 2017 and then a second one next year in 2024. These two eclipses are separated by exactly 82 lunar phases. And again, 82 sums to 666. But what makes this even more interesting is that if you add 6 years, 6 months, 6 weeks, and 6 days to the first date, August 21st of 2017, you get to the next eclipse, April 8th of 2024. Now, 6 years, 6 months, 6 weeks, and 6 days is also 2,423 days. In Latin Gematria, 6 years, 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 days equals 2,423. And 2423 is the 360th prime number. Again, 360 degrees in a circle. The 36th triangular number is 666. When you write the number out, 314 as it's spelled, look at all these connections to 666. You see the 306 in reverse, like the 36th triangular. In ordinal, it's 234, which is a number when added to its inverse, 432, sums to 666. In reduction, you get an 18 and a 99. Well, 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 18, so does 9 plus 9. So there's no way that this is a coincidence in any way. This is very significant stuff. What about the first number that sums to 223? I'm sorry, to 314. It is 223. Of course, now we're in the year 2023, so this has extra significance. There's 223 synodic months in the Saros, which allows us to predict the next solar or lunar eclipse. The first number without the word "and" to sum to 314 is 777. And when you take 223 and add this number to its permutations, 232 and 322, you get a sum of 777. In Satanic Gematria, the words circles and eclipse also sum to 314, reminding us of pi. There's more to do here with the number 720. I'll just leave this on the screen for a second. I don't remember this number being in the story about Sinema here, but very interesting stuff. In Latin Gematria, the phrases mathematics of the circle and mathematical perfection also both sum to 666. So as I mentioned, the number 360 equals 227, and 22 divided by 7 equals 314. Back in 2001, there was this book called Life of Pi that was published, and of course this was published on September 11th, 2001, the same day as the 9/11 attacks. And in this Life of Pi book, the main character, Pi Patel, survives 227 days after a shipwreck. So this story is about Ron Klain getting the middle finger. And if you measure from Ron Klain's birthday to the date of this story, you get 227 days. Now recall how the number 360 sums to 88, a number with 4 circles in it? Ron Klain was born on August 8th, or 8/8. And the name Klain, using the reverse alphabetic order, sums to 88. Now let's talk again about this number 69. Remember, the number 50 when spelled out is 69. So is the word pi in Latin, and in reduction, perfect circle sums to 69. March 23rd this year, the date of this bizarre story, had primary numerology of 69, 3 plus 23 plus 20 plus 23. This is also a life lesson number of 33. Ron Klain was born on a date with reduced numerology of 33. Kyrsten Sinema, her birthday, also falling on another date with reduced numerology of 33. And again, the words circles and eclipse both equal 69 and 33. Kyrsten Sinema, her birth sign is Cancer, which is the only sign ruled by the moon. Ron Klain, meanwhile, his birth sign is Leo, which is the only sign ruled by the sun. So here we have eclipse numbers, the sun, the moon. It all fits together very nicely. These numbers are also attributed by the Jesuits, who use an eclipsed sun, essentially, as their emblem. Society of Jesus has matching gematria with total eclipse. And when you take a Society of Jesus you find that it matches her full name, Kyrsten Lee Sinema, 191, also her common name, 56 and 79. Another very significant number for the circle is 47. Now, this all traces back to the Masonic squaring compass. In Freemasonry, they use this emblem where the compass is set to 47 degrees. And of course, the compass is what's used to draw the circle, which has reduction gematria of 47. The name Klain sums to 47, using the alphabetic order. Now, the number 47 is significant to time, as the sun travels 47 degrees between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn. This 47 degrees traversed around the middle of the Earth. Notice how the word middle equals 47. And this exists because of the Earth's tilt. And notice how the word tilt equals 47. When you spell out the number 666, you get a reverse value of 211, which is the 47th prime number. So next we're going to talk about how this is connected to the Gabby Gifford shooting from 2011. Again, 666 equals 211. In the year 2011, former Arizona Congresswoman Gabby Gifford was shot and somehow survived a bullet to the head. When she was shot, she was exactly 40 years and 7 months old. So here we have the number 47. And she was shot in 2011, 211, the 47th prime. So the reason we're connecting this here is because Kyrsten Sinema is a current senator from the state of Arizona. The other current senator in Arizona is Mark Kelly, who is a former astronaut who is married to Gabby Gifford. And Gifford is now retired, but again, she used to be a representative in Arizona. And I think it's interesting that Kyrsten Sinema presents herself in a very similar fashion to Gabby Gifford. Short blonde hair, big wire-rimmed glasses. I think a lot of people would look at these women and probably call them a Karen, which is something I hate, by the way, not only because I have an aunt named Karen, but if you're using someone's name to insult someone, I think you need a better vocabulary. So this is all synced up with the moon landing because Gabby Gifford's husband, Mark Kelly, is one of these astronauts. You know, one of these guys they send to fly up in low Earth orbit. Of course, that's as far as we've ever been as a species. And we'll talk about how this all connects to the moon landing, as NASA has the big 666 code as well. So on the date of this news story, March 23rd of 2023, Mark Kelly, the other Arizona senator, was 3,083 weeks old exactly. 3,083 is the 441st prime number. National Aeronautics and Space Administration, in the alphabetic order, sums to 441. In Satanic Gematria, Arizona Senator sums to 666, just like Satanic Gematria. When Mark Kelly took office as Arizona Senator, Ron Klain, the object of Kyrsten Sinema's ire, was 21,666 days old. Not only does NASA's full name equal 666 in reverse, but in Satanic, fake moon landing equals 666. In the Fibonacci cipher, Apollo equals 666. Now, the number 666 is linked to the number 111. In the Hebrew alphabet, the sixth letter is Vav, which looks nearly identical to the English glyph for the number 1. And in Sumerian gematria, anything that sums to 111 in ordinal will sum to 666 in Sumerian. So New York, New Mexico, 2 states with 666 and 111 values. This news story came out 1 month and 11 days after the Super Bowl that was hosted in Arizona, the state of Arizona is currently 111 years old. This news story fell 111 days before Kyrsten Sinema's birthday. And notice how Arizona sums to 1011 in standard. The nickname of Arizona is the Grand Canyon State, and in Latin, Grand Canyon is 666. In reduction, 666 equals 48. Arizona was the 48th state admitted to the Union, and its capital, Phoenix, is home to the 480 area code. Also, think about this year, 2023. The number 223 is the 48th prime number. So now let's talk about Gabby Gifford's and how her numerology is connected to Jared Lee Laettner, the man who was accused of shooting her at a meeting back in 2011. Well, when Jared Laettner was born, it was exactly 999 weeks after the moon landing, which is an upside-down 666. The name Jared Laettner in reduction gematria equals 66 and 69. Jared Laettner was born 6,669 days after Gabby Gifford's. These are numbers connected to the fake moon landing, which equals 69. The fake moon landing, Apollo 11, occurred in the year 69 on the date July 20th or 20th of July. Both of those sum to 69, just like pi. In the standard alphabetic order, pi sums to 25. This is because P is the 16th letter. I is the 19th. So here we get 169. Sinema's full name, actually this is Gabrielle D. Giffords, in the alphabetic order equals 169. In reduction, check out how her name sums to 106 and 110. Just like pi, 16 and 11. Ron Klain was born exactly 106 months after Gabrielle D. Giffords, whose name equals 106. This story is about a middle finger. Middle finger equals 106. The shooter's full name, Jared Lee Laettner, equals 160. Astronaut Mark Kelly, also 160. When Laettner shot Giffords, it was 121 days after his birthday. And that's important because the name Gabby Giffords equals 121. This news story about the middle finger fell 120 weeks and 1 day after Mark Kelly took office. The name Mark Kelly sums to 108. And how interesting is that? Because his wife, Gabby Giffords, was shot on January 8th. The date written, 108. The news story also had multiplicative numerology of 108. This is a huge number connected to the sun and the moon. The sun, 108 Earths wide, 108 times its own diameter from the Earth, just like the moon. Full moon and geometry, both 108 and 108. Remember, 6 plus 6 plus 6 is 18. Mathematics of the circle, 108. All right, I want to look at this 720 slide again. So the Apollo 11 mission back in 1969, the first ever moon landing, it occurred on 720, July 20th. And in astrology, 720 represents the cusp of Cancer and Leo, which are the sun and moon signs on the zodiac. The words circles and eclipse both equal 720. Golden ratio equals 720. In reduction, the golden ratio equals 72 and 72. The diameter of the moon can be resolved using the golden ratio when compared to the diameter of the Earth. If you take the number 720 and multiply it by 11, you get the diameter of Earth. If you multiply it by 3, you get the diameter of the moon. So the Earth is 11/3 the size of the moon. The word moon equals 113 with capital letters. The sun and moon both made up of 360 degrees, which is a sum of 720 degrees. Also, the sun and moon both take up half a degree in the sky. So if you lined up the sun or moon 720 times, they would wrap around the entire sky. So what are the odds of all of this? And then the first moon landing is on the date 7/20. Notice how the name Jared Lee Laettner in Satanic Gematria equals 720. In Latin Gematria, his name equals 1130. This represents the number 113. NASA was founded on a date with 113 numerology. And no number tells us about a lie or a mistruth more than the number 113. Disinfo, illusions, mainstream, perjury, all of these words with 113 Gematria. And you may recall, I talked about this on this channel before. The first space shuttle to ever blow up was the 113th launch in history. And then the other shuttle that blew up did so 1 minute 13 seconds after launch. So let's bring this all together with some 3- and 4-digit numbers. Gabby Gifford was born in 1970, which was 323 days after the moon landing. This news story about her doppelganger, Kyrsten Sinema, came out on 3/23. Her husband, Mark Edward Kelly, his name sums to 323. Now, when Mark Kelly was born, he was 1976 days old for the moon landing, right? Well, Kyrsten Sinema was born in the year 1976. And when she was in the news, it was 19,604 days after the moon landing. Like 1964, which is the year that Mark Kelly was born. The name Mark Edward Kelly also equals 64. But in English Standard Gematria, Mark Edward Kelly sums to 1540. This brings us back to the Jesuit order, who has the eclipsed sun. This secret society was formed in the year 1540. And if you measure from the date that Kyrsten Sinema became senator to the date of this story, you get 1,540 days. And once again, her name syncs up very well with Society of Jesus. One more strong connection I wanted to mention. Again, it's the square and compass of Freemasonry with the 47 degrees, and Freemasonry sums to 139 in the alphabetic order. Ronald Allen Klein, his name also sums to 139, and this news story came out 139 days before his birthday. This is the 34th prime number, and 34 is a number shared by both Klein and Sinema. Ron Klein, his birthday falls 304 days before Gabby Gifford's, 340 days before Kyrsten Sinema's, and 34 days before Jared Laettner's. When Gabby Gifford was shot, Kyrsten Sinema was 34 years old, and now Jared Laettner is 34 years old. And I theorize that the number 34 is important here because when you write out 34, it has matching gematria with pi. Middle finger, Gabrielle D. Giffords, Jared Lee Laettner. We looked at all of these throughout the decode. So there you have it. I mean, a complete nonsensical news story about an esteemed lawmaker giving someone a middle finger. And, of course, this all happened a couple weeks before they published the story, so it's all about the date that they tell us about this. All right, so we unpacked a lot to start this. But hey, again, Superstream number 50, we had to talk about the circle, and the news delivered. on a very, very circular date, so to speak. All right, so for the next story here, I want to talk about this amateur NASCAR driver, Justin Owen, who drove in the Sprint Car Championship, died at the age of 26 earlier this week from injuries during qualifying. And there's a few things that are noteworthy here. First of all, I want to point out his first name is Justin. In 2021, I made this post about the 2015 death of race car driver Justin Wilson, who was an IndyCar driver killed during a race at the Pocono Mountains. And this post is actually pretty incredible. The numbers of Saturn are littered all over this story, from the track to the location to his name to the name of the race, the man whose debris hit him. Everything lined up way too well. And this post is linked in the more recent one. And then I also want you to focus on the last name, Owen. If you've been watching my videos this year, I've been talking a lot about people named Owen and Owens in the news. And a lot of this stems around professional wrestler Owen Hart, who died during a live pay-per-view event back in 1999. Back in January, we had a new Speaker of the House elected, and his name was Kevin Owen McCarthy. Kevin Owen McCarthy. And there just so happens to be another wrestler named Kevin Owens. So this story about Justin Owen is actually synced up with both of these stories that I've previously decoded. The first thing that I noticed is that he died on April 8th of 2024. April 8th is the date of next year's total solar eclipse to pass over the United States. Justin Owen died in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, which sits just outside of this path of totality there in Indiana. In fact, if you look closely at the track that he died at, it's less than 3 miles away from the path of totality. So very, very close. And I point this out because Owen Hart also died just outside of the path of totality. This one was the 2017 eclipse, but look how close to the path he was. Owen Hart would have been 19,099 days old for this eclipse in 2017. He died in the year 1999, a span of 6,666 days before that eclipse. Also, he died on 5/23, May 23rd, and 5/23 is the 99th prime number. Back to Justin Owen. So he died exactly 1 year before this eclipse, almost in the path of totality. Notice how Sprint Car National Championship has matching digits with eclipse. Sprint Car also matches total eclipse. He died on 4/8, or April 8th, at the age of 26. Now, April 8th can be written 4/8 or 8/4. The number 26 equals 48 and 84. Justin Owen was from Harrison, Ohio. Harrison equals 48. This track that he died at sits on the 84th meridian, Lawrenceburg, Indiana, 84 west. Dead on 8/4. The phrase solar eclipse equals 8:04 and 4:33. And 4:33 is the 84th prime number. Sprint Car, also with this gematria of 4:33. So his name was Justin, and just like my decode from 2021, the name Justin is synced up, I think, perfectly with Saturn. The name Justin and Saturn in all 5 base methods, including the single reduction, check out this overlap, right? Every cipher. In Latin gematria, Saturn equals 511, and Justin Owen died 511 miles away from Justin Wilson, measuring from Lawrenceburg to Pocono Racetrack. And what makes that so significant is that Justin Wilson, the race car driver, died 5,011 days after Justin Wilson, the chef. So this guy here, he's a famous Southern American Cajun chef, shares a name with the race car driver, and they died 5,101 days apart. This is something I mentioned in that post. Saturn 511. Remember, Saturn and total eclipses have numerical overlap. In Hebrew Gematria, Saturn equals 713. In English, total eclipse equals 713. And 713 is the 9th prime number times the 11th prime number. We all know how 9/11 and eclipses match up as well. So, Owen Hart, what makes this so interesting, Owen Hart was born on May 7th of 1965. Contemporary pro wrestler Kevin Owens was also born on May 7th, exactly 19 years later. And the Metonic cycle is 19 years long. So Kevin Owens, whose real-life son is named Owen after Owen Hart, born on Owen Hart's birthday, exactly one moon cycle later. And think about this birthday, 5-7, like the number 57. The word moon equals 57. The moon has a 57-degree range of declination. Owen Hart would currently be 57 years old if he were still alive. And check out how the name Owen equals 57. Not only does Owen equal 57, but Justin Owen also sums to 57. He was from Harrison, which equals 57. Moon, eclipse in Hebrew, both 57. Justin Owen died in Lawrenceburg, and Lawrenceburg equals 57 and 69. Remember 69 connected to circles and eclipses, both eclipse and eclipse the sun, summing to 69. The name Justin 69. Saturn 69. The one sign ruled by the moon is Cancer, whose symbol is 69. Again, circles 69. So if you measure between the deaths of these two Justins, both race car drivers, they died 7 years, 227 days apart. Lawrenceburg Speedway equals 227. Remember, this number also connected to the circle as we discussed earlier. In Hebrew, the phrase for total eclipse equals 227. Owen Hart, obviously a member of the legendary Hart family in pro wrestling. Hart equals 47 in ordinal, just like the circle, 47 degrees on the compass. 47 is the 15th prime number, and the 15th letter of the alphabet is the circle. The magic square of Saturn has rows and columns that each sum to 15. Owen Hart was from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and died in Kansas City, Missouri, both equaling 150. And the name Justin Owen sums to 150. So does Owen, 15. This brings us back to this story about Kevin Owen McCarthy, the new Speaker of the House. Remember, it took a whopping 15 votes to elect him. And the name Kevin Owen McCarthy equals 1,500. Kevin McCarthy, born exactly 15 lunar phases after Mike McCarthy. That might seem random, but if you look at this post, you'll see it's absolutely not. This whole election synced up with the Super Bowl very well. Also, the name Kevin Owen McCarthy has the same digits as pi. And McCarthy was elected on 1/7/23. Saturn equals 1723. The ancient festival of Saturnalia is celebrated from the 17th through the 23rd. So when we look at this organic stuff, you know, sometimes the numerology isn't completely overwhelming, but I feel like the symbolism, or even the geomancy, might be. And how about this news story, everyone? Man, oh man. This is not a topic I'm very fond of covering on this channel because the whole thing is just strange, right? I mean, we as a society are being asked to accept some pretty radical things lately. And if you want more of my thoughts on this, just check my blog. I have some paragraphs written out. I did a post last year on this topic as well about how crazy it is. And not just talking about what's going on with gender, but also that this person appears to be taking stem cells in hopes of becoming a giraffe. And well on their way, I guess. So let's talk about Bud Light, who has reportedly lost like $5 billion since this news story came out, which is hilarious. And why they did this on April 1st. Now, Dylan Mulvaney is the character here in this story, who is an activist and I guess comedian. I've never laughed at anything they said. Just calling one person they is really strange, too. Like, I'm trying to be polite about it. Anyway, why was April 1st chosen for the date that Bud Light partnered up with Dylan Mulvaney? Now, most news stories are from April 2nd, but if you read the news stories, you'll realize that it was Saturday, April 1st, when these videos were first made. So let's talk about this, because April 1st is April Fool's Day. And I don't think it's a coincidence that we got this transgendered person as a new spokesperson for Bud Light on April Fool's Day. In the alphabetic order, the phrase beer can sums to 48. This year, April 1st had additive and multiplicative numerology of 48. You'll also notice it had reduced numerology of 12. In the most significant ciphers, the word gay equals 408, 48, and 12. And maybe I'm just assuming things here, but when someone presents themselves in this fashion, you tend to assume their orientation. Am I right? I don't know. Maybe I'm a transphobe. So a big number when it comes to stories with, gay characters in them is 33. The word gay in ordinal equals 33. So does AIDS. Remember the disease that wiped out a chunk of the gay community back in the 80s? Well, the number 33 is 11 times 3. And check out how the name Mulvaney equals 113. And again, the number completely associated with lies, bullshit, green screen, not factual. How appropriate for the name Mulvaney to have this value, given that this person is lying to us about their birth gender. So in turn, when you write out the number 33 in Gematria, you get values of 156 and 66. Well, Dylan Mulvaney was born on 12/29 of 1996. And check out the numerology of this date, 156 and 66 with the life lesson number. Additionally, 12 plus 29 plus 96 is also 137, and 100 prime number. I just got a brief disconnection notice, so in case you guys missed that last part, Mulvaney with 137 birth numerology, the 33rd prime. On the date of this news story, when Bud Light issued the cans featuring Dylan to him or her or whatever, Mulvaney was exactly 1,370 weeks old. 137. Not only is that the 33rd prime number, but the word homosexual equals 137. And how funny is it that homosexual also has matching numbers with Bud Light? I was always wondering about people who drank Bud Light before, and now I'm definitely wondering. The name Dylan Mulvaney in ordinal sums to 169. So does the word transitioning. 169 is 13 squared, and the name Mulvaney also has this 13 in it. This also connects to the date because the 13th prime number is 41. The 13th triangular number is 91. And on the date of this story, April 1st, it's written 4-1 and is the 91st day of the year. So April 1st, strongly linked to the number 13. Also Bud Light, something to 560. The name Dylan, 56, just like light. Some other numbers as well. But believe it or not, there's actually an eclipse riddle in with all this. Now, back in 2020, I figured something very significant out about the St. Louis Arch. The St. Louis Arch was built to commemorate east to west expansion in the United States. But that's only the exoteric explanation. Secretly, this arch is an eclipse riddle, because arch eclipses, which only occur at the poles, travel from east to west, whereas most eclipses go west to east. The Gateway Arch opened exactly 54 years before the arch eclipse over Canada and Russia. And when you write out pole eclipse, it equals 54 and 54. Arch eclipse 54, sun arches, all 54. This arch even opened in the year 67. Both St. Louis, Missouri and total solar eclipse equals 67. Of course, the arch, significant to Masonic symbolism, the arch with the 69 like eclipse. Now, the reason I made this post is because at the time, we were learning about Elliot Page, who used to be Ellen Page, coming out, letting us know that she or he was transitioning. And this story was synced up with the Gateway Arch. And look at what the Gateway Arch looks like from above. The national park that surrounds the arch is laid out like a female reproductive system. If you overlap this over the park, it's almost identical. And this arch sits on the edge of the Mississippi River. So there's a lot of symbolism here with gender. And this was evident here as well. So Dylan Mulvaney partnering with Bud Light. Bud Light is brewed by Anheuser-Busch. And Anheuser-Busch is headquartered in St. Louis, Missouri, the location of the Gateway Arch. The word eclipse has matching 33 gematria with the word gay, and 33 equals 66, so does eclipse, and 66 is the first multiple of 33. This Bud Light sponsorship fell 660 days after the arch eclipse, and notice how the phrase gender transition sums to 660. This was also exactly 69 weeks after the second arch eclipse, which happened at the South Pole. St. Louis equals 690, so does eclipse. And of course, there's a lot of jokes to be made here with the number 69 in light of the person in this story, but I'll leave that to you. You know, I get in enough trouble with YouTube as it is, just calling this for what it is. Next, I guess, on the category of homosexuality, here's a story from San Francisco. Back on April 4th, software engineer Bob Lee was stabbed to death in San Francisco. This happened in the Rincon Hill neighborhood of San Francisco. Bob Lee was famous for creating Cash App during his time at Square Inc. And in this decode, we're also going to talk about how it's linked up to the Eclipse Code. It's like so many of these stories are. First of all, the Cash App founder is dead in the year 2023. Notice how Cash App sums to 223 in Latin Gematria. He was killed in the Rincon Hill neighborhood. And I noticed that this neighborhood is a historical landmark in California, and its reference number 84. Well, in Latin gematria, the name Bob Lee equals 84. So does the phrase annular eclipse. And later this year in October, there will be an annular eclipse that passes over the southwest United States, including parts of California, where this story occurred. Bob Lee was stabbed to death 193 days before that eclipse over California. The word stab equals 193. 193 is the 44th prime number, and Bob Lee killed on 4/4, April 4th. Notice how April 4th and 44 have the same gematria, 144. When you take the nickname San Fran in gematria, you get 44 and 144. When Bob Lee created Cash App, he was working for Square Inc. It used to be called Square Cash, in fact. And in gematria, Square Inc. equals 44. The number 4 in Chinese culture is a very unlucky number, as the way the number is said out loud is similar to the word death. In English, the word kill equals 44, and check out how kill has 64 and 28 overlap with Cash App. San Francisco is situated on the 122nd meridian west. And in the alphabetic order, San Francisco equals 122. Bob Lee was born on December 20th, like the digits 122. And then he died on April 4th, which, with triangular numbers, sums to 1220, which is identical to his birthday, December 20th. Now, the ultimate eclipse number is 1331. This post is linked down in the description below, or will be after I'm done. And I encourage anyone who hasn't seen this post to find it, because this is all the evidence you need that not only is gematria highly significant, but this number 1331 is representative of a solar eclipse. Now, this is highly significant to this story. Check out how the name Lee equals 13, the name Bob Lee equals 31. Bob Lee was born on a date with numerology of 130, like 13, and 31. His birthday is December 20th, and in English Standard Gematria, the date December 20th, when spelled out, has gematria of 1331. He was the founder of Cash App, and cash equals 13 and 31. When Cash App was released on October 15th of 2013, it was on a date with 13 and 31 numerology. And then when Bob Lee was killed, he died on a date with numerology of 13 and 31. Cash App also founded on the date leaving 77 days in the year, the word cash 77 reverse. Bob Lee also had a life lesson number of 58. Cash App came out on a date with 58 numerology. Bob Lee died on the date leaving 271 days in the year, and that's the 58th prime number. So as I mentioned, this seems to be synced up with an eclipse over the state of California in October. Notice how Rincon Hill has matching gematria with eclipse, 156 and 57. Rincon Hill also equals 114. This eclipse in October falls on 1014. The 114, the same digits. That annular solar eclipse occurs 298 days after Bob Lee's birthday. Annular solar eclipse equals 298 and 80, just like Bob Lee. San Fran also with a 298. The name Bob Lee also has matching 121 and 76 gematria with blood sacrifice and San Francisco. And he died 6 months, 11 days before that eclipse, which is the Gematria of blood sacrifice in Satanic. Meanwhile, ritual sacrifice is 251. Stabbing equals 251. Bob Lee, 251, Satanic. Here's another prime number, the 54th, like Bob. San Francisco, California, when abbreviated, 54. The number 44 is 54. The mayor of San Francisco, London Breed, 54 and 54 reverse. All right, so a couple weeks ago, we had March Madness wrap up here in the United States. The NCAA college basketball tournament coming to a conclusion with the UConn Huskies over the San Diego State Aztecs. If you want more on that matchup, check out my last live stream where I talk about the WWE UFC merger, as the WWE is based in Connecticut, and the WWE inducted Rey Mysterio into the Hall of Fame this year. Rey Mysterio is from the San Diego area. So, strong links between WWE and college basketball this year, but I thought, given that, basketball season is just wrapped up for college and the NBA playoffs are starting, I thought I would take a look back at what Sports Illustrated considers to be the most significant college basketball play of all time, which occurred during the 1992 NCAA tournament. In the East Regional Final, number 1 seed Duke was taking on number 2 seed Kentucky for a trip to the Final Four. In that game, Kyrsten Laettner made a last-second shot to win the game in overtime and send Duke to the Final Four, where they would ultimately win their second straight national championship. This play is so incredibly coded in Gematria. It's definitely worth visiting again. And I want to start with the opponent that this was done against, the University of Kentucky. University of Kentucky sums to 95 in the reduction method. This number is also found in the Gematria of the Shot and Laettner. So this is what everyone calls it, the Shot. And how interesting is it that in 3 of the most significant ciphers, the Shot has matching Gematria with Laettner. In ordinal, these both sum to 95. In standard, these both sum to 581. In reduction, Laettner and the Shot both equal 32. And perhaps this is the most clearly evident in this decode because Kyrsten Laettner wore number 32 for the Duke Blue Devils. And when he made the shot, he was exactly 32 weeks before his birthday. The word college in reduction equals 32. This is also a number that's associated with Christ. Christ equals 32 and 85, which is the reverse value of 32. And there's a distinct Christ crucifixion element in here, as we'll discuss as we go. Earlier, I just mentioned the 1331 eclipse. And this is synced up to the Shot as well. This 1331 eclipse belonged to Saros Series 102. I talked about this at length in my Damar Hamlin video. Vince Lombardi, Damar Hamlin, Aaron Rodgers, all synced up with this 102 number. And 102 is it's so evidently coded in here, it's insane. We begin with the seeds, right? Duke was the nation's number 1 seed, ranked number 1 in the region, and they were looking for their second straight championship this year. Kentucky, meanwhile, was the 2 seed, so we have number 1 against number 2 playing for a spot in the Final Four. And in the alphabetic order, Final Four equals 102. This was the 12th season that Duke head coach Mike Krzyzewski was leading the team. So once again, we have another 1 and 2. It was his 12th season. In Gematria, the name Mike Krzyzewski equals 1002. in reverse Sumerian. Now, as this play with Kyrsten Laettner started, Duke had the ball. They had to inbound it. And notice how Duke had 102 points. Furthermore, there were 2.1 seconds left on the clock. So more 1-2, 2-1. The inbound pass went to Kyrsten Laettner, whose full name, Christian Donald Laettner, sums to 102, also 1,200 in standard. When he took the shot, one player from Kentucky tried to make a play on him, and that player was number 12. This other guy backed off completely. Just number 12 came up and tried to contest. The ball went through the hoop, and look who was standing underneath the hoop. Duke number 21. 2-1. Now, after the shot goes in, the camera cut immediately to Coach Krzyzewski, but instead of showing Coach Krzyzewski, it instead zooms in on this guy who's wearing number 12. And notice how his name is Hill. T. Hill. The man who threw the inbound pass was named Grant Hill. And consider how this was a pass to a man named Christian. Christ died on the cross on a hill, right? Golgotha or Mount Calvary. Notice how the word crucifix equals 1,020. But what really brings this home is the number 12. In the alphabetic order, 12 equals 87. And this was Duke's 87th season of college basketball. If you measure between the birthdays of Kyrsten Laettner and Grant Hill, who threw him the pass, you get exactly 3 years and 7 weeks. That's the 12th prime number, 37. The date of this game had primary numerology of 142. 3 plus 28 plus 19 plus 92. The name Grant Hill equals 142. The name Christian also equals 142 in reverse. This game fell 142 days before Kyrsten Laettner's next birthday. Kyrsten Laettner was set to turn 23 years old that year. The name Hill equals 23. And if you measure to Grant Hill's birthday, this game was played 175 days later. Buzzer beater equals 175. Duke's nickname is Blue Devils, which equals 666. Talked a lot about this number earlier on in this video. Notice how Michael William Krzyzewski, the coach's full name, has matching gematria with crucifixion of Jesus Christ. The date of the shot had numerology of 123, which matches Krzyzewski's name as well as the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Crucifix also 123. And again, we're talking about a man named Christian. So in 1992, this was still just a few months after one of the most significant eclipses of the 1900s. In 1991, there was a middle eclipse. I think this was the first middle eclipse in about 150 years. So this was a very, very long eclipse. And it also belonged to Solar Saros 136, which is truly the most significant Saros series that exists. And how do we know this? Well, when the first eclipse from Saros 136 began, it was still the 13th of July in the Western Hemisphere in the year 1360. So think about how that date could be written. 13/6 of 1360. Again, this was the date in the Western Hemisphere when the first eclipse from Solar Saros 136 began. Earlier, we talked about the Jesuit order founded in September of 1540. 3 days later, we had an eclipse from Saros 136. And in the alphabetic order, the Jesuits equals 136. So does the Beast. The Beast is 136 in reverse. So this middle eclipse from Saros 136 was in 1991, and it occurred on July 11th, or 7/11. Well, Christian Laettner made the shot 7 months, 11 days after his birthday. And remember, 7 times 11 is 77, which is Christ. The shot was on 3/28, March 28th. Christian was 328 days after his birthday when that middle eclipse occurred. And then he made the shot 8 months, 17 days later, and his birthday is 8/17. This is also synced up with the 13/31 eclipse. If you measure from the 13/31 eclipse to the shot, notice the last 4 digits, 1180. Well, Christian Laettner was exactly 1180 weeks old for this shot. In the alphabetic order, March Madness equals 118. And this is also a good opportunity for me to talk about the organic matrix a little bit. Because, a lot of you probably still say, this is all rigged, this is all scripted and fixed. Maybe it is. I have my questions about that. There's just too much coding for all of this to be coordinated by man. If it is, they're certainly getting some help. I'll say that much. Now, this play, The Shot from 1992, this got me interested in tournaments. So at the time, I was 6 or 7 years old. And the idea of a bracket and a tournament, I fell in love with it for some reason. And when I was younger, I got obsessed with tournaments. And on the screen here, you're seeing this ridiculous 64-team triple elimination bracket that I wrote out. And I had a way of using odds to figure out who the winner would be, and I had like placement tournaments after everyone got eliminated. It was insane. Like, I've always been a nutcase in OCD when it comes to numbers and stuff, and I had pages and pages of stuff like this as a kid. Now, I mentioned OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, which is something I grew up struggling very mightily with. I was not your average kid. I was a weirdo. And I'm still a little bit of a weirdo, but in a much more wholesome way, I guess. And my main thing with OCD was powers of 2. I was always counting, and I had to do things in powers of 2. And if this sounds ridiculous, yes, it's ridiculous. It's so stupid. But, the most common example was light switches. If I would turn the light switch on and off, if it didn't feel right, I would have to do it again. And if that didn't feel right, I'd have to do it 2 more times, so it was 4 turns. And if that didn't feel right, I had to do it 4 more times, so it was 8. And then 16 times, and then 32. I would literally turn a light switch off 128 times. Like, I was not right in the head. And, my mom recognized this as a kid because she struggled with similar things. So I was trained out of it from a young age, but it was really bad for a while, especially when I was around the ages of like 7 to 9 years old. Probably after that as well. But even as a kid, I thought it was funny that my birthday was June 4th, 6/4, and the number 64 is a power of 2. But what makes this really strange is if you look up the NCAA tournament, the NCAA tournament expanded to 64 teams in 1985, which is the same year that I was born, and I was born on 6/4. And if you measure from the national championship game to the date I was born, it was 64 days. Bracketology equals 64. And in this game, Georgetown was upset by Villanova, and Georgetown scored 64 points. Both teams in this game, Villanova Wildcats and Georgetown Hoyas, equals 64 in Gematria. And then I was born 64 days later on 6/4, and I grew up obsessed with brackets. That's pretty interesting to me, right? Just another example of how the numbers of our birth, the numbers in our names, seem to coordinate with things that we're interested in this lifetime. I don't know how to articulate that any better. All right, guys, while we're on the topic of eclipses, particularly the 1331 eclipse, we're going to talk about one more story from last month that was attributed to this. Adam Sandler won the 2023 Mark Twain Prize for American Comedy. Now, what I want to be clear about here is the date that they issued this. So as we see here, there's a list on Wikipedia of all the winners, and the 2023 winner was Adam Sandler, receiving his award on March 19th. These dates are entirely arbitrary. Just look at Dave Chappelle. I did a decode on Dave Chappelle winning the same prize in 2020. And although Chappelle was the 2019 winner, he wasn't actually given the award until 2020. So these dates are all over the place, and this date was chosen for Adam Sandler for a very special reason. First of all, March 19th, the date that he got this award, had numerology of 65 and 29. These are the values of the word comedy, and this award is specifically for comedy or American humor. Mark Twain was born on November 30th, and November 30th was the date of the 1331 eclipse. November 30th equals 1331. 1331 eclipse, also 1331 in Gematria. So this is Mark Twain's birthday, and he's definitely synced up with this. Adam Sandler was born on September 9th, which is the date leaving 113 days in the year. So that's very similar to how Mark Twain would write his birthday, 1130. 11 times 3 is 33. This ceremony was held 33 days before the 113th anniversary of Mark Twain's death in 1910. Adam Sandler's full name, Adam Richard Sandler, sums to 303 and 1113. Of course, Twain's birthday, the eclipse date, eclipse equals 33. And check out Adam Sandler's birthday. It's really fun. 9966. When you write this out, it looks great. 9966. The number 33 equals 66. And in standard, it equals 1515. Adam Sandler got his award 15 months and 15 days, or 470 days after the last total solar eclipse. Total eclipse and award, both summing to 47 in Gematria. This year's award has a strong Jesuit theming to it. Take a look once more at the Jesuits with their eclipse symbolism. The name Adam Sandler sums to 144 and 205, just like Jesuit order. Adam Richard Sandler equals 153 and 461, just like Jesuit order. Society of Jesus and total eclipse both equal 187. A lot of people recognize this number as the homicide code. In reverse standard, Mark Twain equals 1870 and 110 in ordinal. Mark Twain's full name, Samuel Langhorne Clemens, also sums to 110 and 1010. Well, if you measure from the birthday of Mark Twain to the date of Adam Sandler's award, you get 187 years and 110 days. This is also 333 days after the anniversary of his death. The name Adam Richard Sandler sums to 333. Another number that Society of Jesus shares with total eclipse is 56. Sandler was born 56 years after Mark Twain died, and now he's 56 years old, accepting his award on a date with numerology of 56. Samuel Langhorne Clemens equals 236 in the alphabetic order. Twain Award equals 2036. Sandler got the Twain Award 2,036 days after the first Great American Eclipse in 2017. Adam Sandler received his award on the 78th day of the year. Notice how Jesuit and the Jesuit order both equals 78. The next annular eclipse over the United States falls on the date leaving 78 days in the year. And Sandler's award was gifted 209 days before that solar eclipse. Solar eclipse equals 209. So does Samuel Clemens, Twain's real name. Finally, I want to talk about the Saros cycle of eclipses once again. Eclipses from the same Saros series are separated by 223 synodic months, or lunations. When Mark Twain died, he did so 223 days before his next birthday. Here we are in the year 2023, of course. This means that Twain died 142 days after his last birthday. Well, Adam Sandler was born 142 days after the date that Twain died, April 21st. The name Samuel Clemens equals 142. The word comedian, 142. Also Sandler in reverse, 142. So no question, this is entirely by the numbers. If you have doubts on that, check out my video on Dave Chappelle, who won the 2019 award in the year 2020. Just a quick look at Dave Chappelle. His full name, like I said, he won the 2019 award, but the ceremony was held in 2020. So why would they wait until the next year to give him the award? And the answer lies in the numbers. David Chappelle's full name sums to 220 and 2002. So this explains why it was 2020 when he actually got the award. In fact, Chappelle's show, if I can find it, Chappelle's show even debuted 22 days after the year 2002 ended. And how wild is that, right? 22 days after the year 2002 ended. Bizarre stuff. All right, guys. Well, I think that does it for this video. We've gone almost an hour and a half. Apologies again to anyone who tried to catch my first stream only to have my computer bug out on me. Hopefully that's a once-a-decade situation. All right, everyone. Peace, love, God bless. Thanks again for watching. Please feel free to share, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, we'll talk to you very soon. See ya.